Snow fell endlessly over the forest road, swallowing the world in white that a woman in a torn wedding dress struggled to push her wheelchair through the storm, shivering violently. Her fingers were blue, her lips were blue, her breath shallow. Behind her came the echo of an engine, a pickup truck. Inside it, a rugged veteran named Jack Harper spotted her slumped figure before he could process it. His retired K-9 partner, Shadow, began barking wildly. Pawing at the window, Jack slammed the brakes. He jumped out of the truck, rushing toward her the moment he reached her. She clutched his jacket with the last bit of strength she had. She whispered, "Please, don't let him find me." She gasped, eyes wide with terror. "Don't let him take me back." Then she collapsed. In his arms, Jack thought he was saving a runaway bride. He was saving a stranger he had no idea he had just rescued. One of the richest women in the country, a billionaire. Heiress who would soon change his life forever. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. The wind howled across the snowy backroads as Jack Harper's old blue pickup rattled along the forest trail. Snowflakes slapped against the windshield, and the world outside was nothing but white and silence. Beside him, his retired military K-9, Shadow, sat alert. Ears perked, eyes fixed on the woods. Jack glanced at him. "Easy, boy. Just another storm." But Shadow didn't relax. His body stiffened, a low growl rumbling deep in his chest. Then he began pawing at the window. Jack frowned. Shadow never reacted like this unless something was seriously wrong. Moments later, as Jack rounded a bend, his headlights revealed a figure on the side of the road, a woman in a tattered wedding dress, hunched over, shivering uncontrollably. Her wheelchair was half buried in snow. Jack slammed the brakes. Shadow jumped out before the truck even stopped. Jack ran toward her, heart pounding. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" The woman lifted her head slowly, her lips blue, tears frozen on her cheeks. "Please." Her voice cracked, barely a whisper. "Don't let him find me." Then she collapsed forward into Jack's arms, trembling violently. Jack lifted her gently, carrying her toward the truck as Shadow circled protectively. He thought he'd stumbled upon a tragic accident. But he had no idea that this freezing stranger was a billionaire heiress, and saving her would change his entire life. Just hours earlier, the world Emma Hartley knew had shattered. The grand estate buzzed with music, flowers, and celebration. Her wedding day. Guests toasted, cameras flashed, and her fiancé, Dylan Royce, smiled like the perfect gentleman. But behind that smile lived a darkness she had ignored for too long. Emma had always been private about her wealth. Very few knew she was the sole heir to the Hartley Foundation, a multi-billion-dollar empire funding hospitals, shelters, and veteran programs. She trusted Dylan with her heart, but never with her fortune, until she overheard the truth that a voice behind a closed door, Dylan whispering harshly to his mother, "She signs the transfer papers tonight. Once it's done, she won't be needed anymore." Emma froze. Her blood went cold. She tried to run, but Dylan caught her halfway down the hall. "You're not going anywhere," he hissed. In the struggle, her wheelchair overturned. She hit the floor hard, but adrenaline won. She crawled to a side exit, pushed herself upright, and wheeled into the freezing woods behind the estate, wedding dress and all. For hours she forced her chair through the snow, praying for help. Her fingers went numb. Her breath weakened. No cars, no lights, nothing, until she heard an engine in the distance. A truck, a barking dog. Hope. She didn't know who was coming, but she knew one thing. If Dylan found her first, she wouldn't survive the night. Back in the warm glow of Jack Harper's cabin, the storm raged outside, rattling the windows like an angry beast. Jack carried the unconscious bride to the couch, wrapping her in blankets while Shadow sat protectively at her feet, eyes locked on her every breath. Minutes passed before she stirred. Her eyes fluttered open, confused and frightened. "You're safe," Jack said gently. "I'm Jack. This is my dog, Shadow. We found you on the road." Emma tried to sit up, but winced, gripping her arms. "Please, he's looking for me." Jack frowned. "Who?" She hesitated, fear tightening her throat. "My fiancé." Shadow growled low, as if he understood. Jack rested a hand on the dog's neck. "You're safe here," he repeated. No one's getting through that storm. Emma's gaze drifted around the small cabin. Firewood stacked neatly, a faded military jacket on a hook, medals displayed quietly on a dusty shelf. "You're a soldier," she whispered. "Was," Jack corrected softly. "Now I'm just trying to make it through the month." She noticed the limp in his step, the scar on his forearm, the exhaustion behind his eyes. Shadow nudged Jack gently, sensing the moment slipping into vulnerability. Jack tried to change the subject. "Storm should pass by morning. After that, I'll take you wherever you need to go." But Emma's voice dropped. "If he finds me, he'll finish what he started." Jack froze. Shadow stood up abruptly, ears pointed toward the window. Headlights cut through the snow outside the cabin. Someone had found them. Jack moved toward the window slowly, his breath turning cold in his chest. Outside, 2 SUVs crawled through the snow, their headlights slicing through the storm like knives. Shadow growled, deep, long, warning that Emma's face drained of color. "That's them," she whispered. "Jack, please." Before he could speak, pounding fists shook the cabin door. "Open up," a voice thundered. "We're looking for my fiancée. She's in danger." Jack didn't move. He could hear the lie dripping off every word. Another bang, stronger, angrier. Shadow launched forward, teeth bared. Jack cracked the door open just an inch. 3 men stood outside, snow clinging to their expensive coats. In the center, Dylan Royce, eyes burning with entitlement and fury. "She's not here," Jack said flatly. Dylan smirked. "Do you know who I am?" "Don't care." Dylan's smile dropped. "Move. She's mine." He tried to shove the door. Shadow exploded into a violent bark, forcing Dylan backward. The men panicked. One reached inside his jacket. Jack reacted instantly, grabbing Dylan and slamming him into the snow. Shadow lunged, pinning another attacker with terrifying precision. "Call him OFF." The man screamed. "He only attacks trash," Jack snapped. Emma watched from inside, trembling, as Dylan shrieked. "You can't hide her. She belongs to me." That was it. Jack yanked Emma from her chair, carrying her out the back door while Shadow guarded their escape. He placed her gently in the truck. "Hold on," he said. "We're getting you out of here." Shadow leapt into the back as Jack floored. The gas, snow exploding behind them as they disappeared into the storm. The storm had begun to ease when Jack's truck screeched into the parking lot of the nearest police station. Officers rushed forward as Jack carried Emma inside, Shadow staying at her side like a silent guardian. Emma was trembling, but safe. Dylan and his men were far behind, stuck somewhere in the storm that an officer guided them into a private room. "Ma'am, you're safe here. Can you tell us what happened?" Emma took a shaky breath. For the first time since the ordeal began, she didn't look terrified. She looked determined. "I'm Emma Hartley," she said softly, "owner of Hartley Innovations." The officers froze. Jack blinked, stunned. "That's impossible," one officer whispered. "You're a billionaire," Emma finished. "Yes, and my fiancé tried to force me into signing my entire inheritance over." She explained everything, the threats, the lies, the escape into the woods, the hours of freezing agony. Jack felt a lump rise in his throat. He had thought she was just a bride who needed help, not a woman carrying the weight of an empire. Emma reached out, placing her hand gently over his. "You saved my life without knowing anything about me," she said. "Most people only see my money. But you saw a human being." Shadow nudged her leg, tail thumping softly. An officer returned moments later. "Ma'am, your fiancé and his men have been caught. They're under arrest." Emma exhaled shakily, tears forming. "For the first time in years, I feel safe." She looked at Jack and whispered, "Because of you." 3 weeks later, the storm was a distant memory. Jack returned home from a long day of odd jobs, expecting nothing more than quiet and bills waiting on the table. But instead, a sleek black car sat in his driveway. Shadow's ears perked, tail wagging cautiously. When Jack opened the door, his breath caught. Emma stood in his cabin. No wedding dress, no fear, no exhaustion. Just a warm smile. And she was standing. "I told you I'd come back," she said softly. Physical therapy helped more than we expected. Before Jack could speak, a man in a suit stepped forward, handing him a folder. Inside were documents, a full renovation plan for Jack's cabin, medical coverage for Shadow, and a lifetime grant to support struggling veterans. Jack looked up, stunned. Emma, I can't accept this. She stepped closer. Jack, you saved my life. You saved me, not the billionaire. Let me return the kindness. Shadow pressed his head against her leg, as if agreeing. Tears welled in Jack's eyes. For the first time in years, he felt hope. Emma smiled, whispering, heroes deserve a future too. And in that simple moment, 3 lives were forever changed.